If you are from the United States or any of these countries, there's a good chance you are familiar with Amber Alerts, an emergency alert that is broadcasted whenever a child is kidnapped. The premise is a simple one to understand. A child is the victim of abduction, and this alert is used to bring attention to citizens around where the abduction took place. According to the Center for Missing and Exploited Children, as of November 2021, almost 1,100 children have been rescued as a result of the program since its inception 26 years ago. But the roots of this program come from a tragic story that many may not be aware of. So to learn more about it, let's take a trip back to 1996, to the city of Arlington, Texas. At 3 p.m. on January 13, 1996, 9-year-old Amber Hagerman left her grandparents' house to go bike riding with her younger brother Ricky. The two had been told to stay on their grandparents' block, but were drawn to the parking lot of an abandoned supermarket further down the street. After playing there for a couple of minutes, Ricky got nervous and wanted to return home, but Amber decided she wanted to ride her bike around some more. Ricky went back to his grandparents, not realizing this would be the last time he ever saw his sister again. Minutes after Ricky left, an elderly man who lived behind the grocery store was sitting outside in his backyard, where he had a clear view of the parking lot and Amber riding around in it. Suddenly, a black pickup truck pulled up next to the little girl, and a 20 to 30-year-old white male with dark hair emerged from the vehicle. He grabbed the 9-year-old and forced her into his truck, while the elderly man stood in shock at what he was witnessing. The stranger jumped in the vehicle and drove off, heading toward the center of town. The witness immediately called Arlington police, and within minutes, officers had arrived on the scene. Not long after the police got there, Ricky, at his grandparents' instruction, returned to the parking lot to tell his sister to come home, where he found her abandoned bicycle and police officers canvassing the area around the store. Amber's little brother returned home with one of the officers, who explained to his grandparents what had happened. Her parents were then contacted, and over the course of the following days, a community-wide search effort was mobilized, with the FBI becoming involved soon after. At the time, the search for Amber Hagerman was thought to have gotten off to a comparatively fast start. There was an eyewitness who had provided a clear description of both the vehicle and the suspect, which was an invaluable asset to police officers. The case had also received widespread media coverage around Texas, so within a matter of days, the entire state was basically on alert regarding the young girl's abduction. Tragically, however, the investigators and the volunteers within the community would not be fast enough. 4 days later, a man walking his dog around an apartment complex found Amber's body in a creek just around midnight, less than 5 miles from where the abduction had taken place. Her throat was slashed, and it was believed she had been sexually assaulted. The medical examiner determined she had been dead for at least 2 days, meaning she was killed just 48 hours after her abduction. The tragedy stunned and enraged the Arlington community, and marked the beginning of a crusade for Amber's family, particularly her mother, Donna Whitson. Many wondered how such a brutal and senseless crime could take place, and this was also during the time where the so-called stranger danger moral panic was still gripping American households, a crushing and unavoidable fear for parents that their child could be violently ripped from them at any moment by a monster waiting in the shadows to do unspeakable harm to the most innocent among us. And while cases like Amber Hagerman's are exceptionally rare, the unlikelihood of their occurrence is cold comfort to a family who has experienced such a traumatic event, or for the community where that event has taken place. After the murder of her daughter, Donna Whitson began publicly speaking out for the need to make tougher laws governing sex offenders, bluntly stating to the Houston Chronicle shortly after Amber's burial that sex offenders needed to be, quote, locked up for life or killed. A sentiment that the citizens of Arlington, and I'm sure many of you watching this video, shared. An outraged community looked for various ways to vent, and being this was long before the age of social media, local radio stations were the best outlet they had. Thousands of people called in lamenting Amber's murder and wondering if she could have possibly been saved had the community been informed of the abduction just a bit sooner. Statistics have shown that the first 48 hours of an abduction are absolutely critical in safely finding the child, and many wondered aloud, had a community or even statewide effort been mobilized just a day sooner, would Amber Hagerman have been saved? One caller by the name of Diana Simone, an Arlington resident who, like many others, was outraged by the 9-year-old's murder, had an idea. What if in the event of an abduction, where police had a clear description of the suspect and the vehicle they were driving, they could contact local radio stations to broadcast a community-wide alert? This would allow information to get out to the public much faster than it currently was, as instead of waiting for the story to break on local news, police would go right to the stations themselves and get the alert out, potentially saving critical amounts of time with getting the search effort mobilized. The station liked Diana's suggestion so much, they asked her to follow up with a letter and contact the station manager, who they promised would present it at an upcoming meeting of regional radio station managers. In the letter sent immediately after speaking with them, Simone's one request was that if such a plan were to be implemented, that it be named Amber's Plan in memory of Hagerman. At the meeting, the station managers agreed to the idea, and within a few months was given permission by the FCC to begin their plan, which was named America's Missing Broadcast Emergency Response, or simply Amber. Amber's family enthusiastically supported Simone's plan and had embarked on a crusade of their own. As I said earlier, they felt that current laws were much too lenient on sex offenders, particularly in cases involving children. Her mother Donna spoke in front of Congress in June of 1996 and asked them to pass a law enacting a national sex offender registry, arguing there was a high likelihood that the man who'd kidnapped her daughter had been one such offender, and had police been able to quickly cross-reference a database to begin questioning suspects, there's a chance Amber might have been saved. This suggestion quickly garnered widespread support, leading to the Amber Hagerman Child Protection Act being drafted by Congressman Martin Frost, who represented Miss Whitman's district. The law required a sentence of life in prison without parole for any two-time sex offender whose crimes involved children. It also created a national sex offender registry. It passed both houses of Congress with broad support and was signed into law by President Bill Clinton later that year. While Amber Hagerman's parents were making headway in the nation's capital, the program in Texas that carried her namesake was off to a rocky start. The scope of the program quickly expanded beyond radio stations to include televisions, pagers, and email, but in the first 2 years of its existence had yet to result in an abducted child being rescued. Simone and Hagerman's family feared that the experimental program would be cut short given its lack of results. But in 1998, the Amber Alert system found its first success. At just 2 months old, Rayleigh Bradbury was abducted from her home in Fort Worth, Texas by her babysitter in November 1998, who fled the scene in a turquoise-colored pickup truck. An Amber Alert was issued a day after the abduction, and the truck was spotted by a local resident who contacted police, leading to the arrest of the babysitter and the safe return of Bradbury to her parents, who has since lived a happy life and will turn 24 years old this year. The credit for the rescue went to the Amber Alert program, and the story gained nationwide attention, leading to many other states beginning to implement their own Amber programs. Over the next 5 years, dozens of states would follow this trend, with some electing to name the program after infamous abductions that had taken place within their borders, but the core of the program always being the same. In 2003, President George W. Bush signed the Protection Act into law, which established a national set of guidelines for the circumstances under which an Amber Alert should be issued. And by 2009, all 50 states, as well as Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, had established their own form of the Amber Plan. The idea even went international, with Canada, Mexico, and several other countries implementing some version of the Amber Alert system. The program has, by all accounts, been a massive success, recovering over 1,000 children since its inception. But that doesn't mean it has been without its criticisms, and these issues have led many advocates to fear for the program's future. Amber Alerts have become a part of everyday life, something that all of us recognize and have become accustomed to. Which, of course, is the point. Every member of the public needs to know what an Amber Alert is in order for the system to function as intended. But some activists fear this widespread adoption that is the alert system's biggest strength may also be its biggest weakness. Nowadays, alerts aren't just broadcast on radios and TVs as they were during the late 90s, but also on social media platforms and cell phones through the use of each state's emergency text message system, leading some to worry that the public is starting to become desensitized to them. With the rapid pace of the modern news cycle, we are being hit from all directions with distressing news on a 24/7 basis, and unfortunately, Amber Alerts might be rapidly getting lost in that noise. Public desensitization is also exacerbated by the fact that many times when alerts are issued, the child isn't in any physical danger. As I said earlier, as horrific as what happened to Amber Hagerman was, those crimes are extraordinarily rare. According to the Center for Missing and Exploited Children, in 2020, which is the most recent year we have detailed statistics on Amber Alerts, 200 alerts were issued nationwide involving a total of 260 children. Of those 260, 176, or 68%, were family abductions, meaning they were taken by a parent or someone with a family relationship to the child in violation of custody or visitation rights. 62 children at 24% were classified as non-family abductions, which is when a child is taken by a stranger. 19 children at 7% were classified as lost, endangered, or otherwise missing, which is defined as any child under 10 years old who has run away from home, or any child under 18 where the circumstances involving why they have gone missing can't be determined. And lastly, 3 children, or 1%, were endangered runaways, meaning any child between 11 and 17 that has gone missing on their own accord. None of this is including the alerts issued that were later determined to be hoaxes or where the child was never missing in the first place. I'll link all of that down in the description if you want to check it out for yourself. Now, I'm not arguing police are using these alerts wrong, nor am I saying that the system itself is ineffective. But I do think there are some challenges that law enforcement need to consider for the system to remain effective. When the public at large sees the majority of Amber Alerts are a child caught in a domestic dispute between parents or family members, situations where the child is often not in any physical danger, there is a very real concern that they will eventually stop paying attention to them altogether, which completely negates what makes the system work in the first place. How we accomplish this, I'm not quite sure. Maybe they could create a new kind of alert exclusively to family abductions and keep Amber Alerts for non-family abductions and lost, endangered, or otherwise missing. But then what happens when a child is in physical danger from a family member or parent? If I had the answer to these questions, I'd be doing something way more important with my life than making crime documentaries on YouTube. So feel free to let me know in the comments what you think. Am I over-exaggerating the chances the public will grow numb to Amber Alerts? Or do you agree that the system needs to modernize to remain effective? I'm honestly curious what you think. Tragically, 26 years later, the murder of Amber Hagerman is still unsolved. Arlington police have not yet given up on the case and continue to aggressively pursue leads in hopes that they will one day find the person responsible for her death. Her mother remains as strong an advocate for her story as anyone, continuing to fight in hopes that one day she can create a world where parents never again have to go through the pain that she did. The program that carries her daughter's name continues going strong and, regardless of any theories about its future, has proven to be a valuable tool in law enforcement's arsenal for finding missing children and bringing them home. Whether changes need to be made to the system or not, I hope that success continues, and that even in death, Amber Hagerman remains a guardian to lost children for years to come. This is Crime Spot, and thank you for watching.